Welcome to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing, founder of the Reiki Business Collective and creator of the Build Your Reiki Business program, sending blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business. Greetings, welcome, and thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing. Of course, I am, as always, honored to have you here, so thanks so much for joining me. In this week's episode, we're talking about automation. Automation for your Reiki business. Now, automation in our Reiki business is, of course, just having things set up so that certain tasks are done automatically for us. Automation can take many different forms in our Reiki business, but typically, automation has to do with any kind of online function that we might do in our Reiki business. Of course, there are other ways to automate in our Reiki business offline and outside of our online presence. But because so many of our Reiki business processes, administrative processes, are done online anyway, this is primarily where most of our automation in our Reiki business may take place. And so when I say automation, it just means that things are done automatically for us and not manually by us. So, some examples of automation in our Reiki business are things that we are already doing and that for most of us in our Reiki business are already automized. So this is something like our point of sale system. However, someone checks out with us and pays us. And so whether someone is using Stripe or Square or PayPal to pay us, once they pay, you get paid. And you don't have to call up PayPal and ask them when. Typically, you don't have to call up PayPal and ask when you're going to get the money. You automatically get it. And of course, PayPal automatically takes its fees as well. But that's an example of automation in our Reiki business that really all of us use. And so to some extent, all of us are already using some form of automation in our Reiki business. Another example of automation in our Reiki business is when someone books an appointment with us. Typically, they're doing so on a calendar system, or you're inputting them into your calendar system. That would be a manual input. But for many of us in our Reiki business, it's automated. Someone schedules, and that person is automatically added to our calendar, and they automatically receive a confirmation, and so do we. So that is an example of automation that, again, many of us use in our Reiki business. One thing that is so nice about this kind of automation is that it will also send reminder emails. So if you're using a calendar system like Calendly or TidyCal or Appointlet, or, any of the other very common calendar systems, the vast majority of them are sending out a reminder email to the client automatically. So this is something that you do not have to do. Now, if you're not using this kind of system and you are sending them manually, then you know that this can be time-consuming to do. And so automation in our Reiki business, even in these very simple ways, really saves us time. It allows us to have tasks that are done for us that we don't have to manually do. Now, I don't know about you, but in my Reiki business, I'm pretty busy. And the more that I can automate certain tasks, the better, because that frees up time for me to be able to do other things. Like if I had to manually email an appointment every single time before the appointment to remind them, I wouldn't get anything else done. Same for if I'm hosting a workshop and I have reminders set up, maybe I have it scheduled through my calendar system. With that calendar system, the reminders are automated. I can't even imagine having to email each person who registers individually to remind them about the event. Heck no, that would take up way too much of my time. And quite honestly, I wouldn't even send reminders and I would just hope that people remembered. Thankfully, we have calendar systems that will do this for us. And by the way, even the free versions of the vast majority of calendar systems will send an automated reminder. Phew, that makes our lives a lot easier. So automation in our Reiki business is a big help to assist with those manual tasks that would otherwise be so time consuming that they very well might not get done. Now, some might say that automation takes away from the personal touch in our Reiki business. And so when we have an automatic reminder that goes out, it's not us sending it. And so therefore, it takes away the human element and our business is less personalized. Maybe that might be part of the case, but oftentimes we are able to personalize that automation and those automation processes. Like for instance, the confirmation page when someone pays, or the thank you confirmation page that says thank you for your order, or the calendar reminder. Oftentimes we're able to personalize those so that it is more personal in our Reiki business. But I think at some point we need to be able to relinquish some of that personalization in order to simply get the task done more efficiently. So something like calendar reminders that go out automatically, I think are definitely worth not having the personalization of hitting send yourself. Now, as a general rule with automation in our Reiki business, the more we automate, the more expensive it gets. So the more we automate in our Reiki business, the more we're going to end up paying. So for instance, something like an email system. I use an email system and my emails are sent automatically to my email list. Now, I have to tell you that there's no way that I could hit send on thousands of emails. I send thousands of emails in my Reiki business every week. There is no way that I could email each person on my list individually and hit send myself. I also think that probably my email address would get shut down for sending so many emails. But it becomes really inefficient to try to do this kind of task ourselves. And so allowing an email sender to do these things for us automatically is very helpful. But I can tell you that I pay for it. I pay to send emails in my Reiki business. And the more you automate those emails, depending upon your email sender, uh, there's going to be more of a cost oftentimes associated with that. So you can get an email sender that automatically sends emails, and that's part of their free package. But when you want to get into some more advanced automation, you're going to end up paying more. So for instance, when you request my free Reiki Biz Kit, you receive that automatically. So my email sender, once you input your name and email address, my email sender will automatically send it to you. I'm not manually sending out the email with the Reiki Biz Kit. My email sender will automatically send it. By the way, I will say that anytime we have automation, it doesn't always work 100% correctly 100% of the time. And so I do have people who request the Reiki Biz Kit and don't get it because that automation, unfortunately, in that instance, didn't work. So if you ever request the Reiki Biz Kit and it doesn't come to you, check your spam folder. If it's not there, reach out to me. I'll send it to you manually. But that means that kind of automation in our Reiki business means that we can send out so much more help to people than we could if we were sending it out manually. There's no way that I could manually send an email to everyone who requests the Reiki Biz Kit. Again, I would get nothing done. So thank you so much, email sender, for doing it for me. But I pay for that automation. So I pay for the efficiency of not having to manually send emails out myself. But it's definitely worth it for me to have that email sender automatically send out the Biz Kit or anything else that I might send through automation with my email sender, in order to save me so much time and effort. Otherwise, there's no way I would be able to manually send that volume of emails. And so while I pay for it, and it's not cheap, I will say that it is definitely cheap, quote unquote cheap, based upon the trade-off for my time and energy. Another thing to consider about using automation in your Reiki business is that it does come with an upfront cost of our time. And so while it also comes with an upfront cost of money, it comes with an upfront cost of our time. And so while I'm not manually sending out the Reiki Biz Kit every time I get a request, I had to spend the time first to set up that automation. With automation in our Reiki business, like any aspect of the tech, the more we do it, the easier it becomes. And so in my Reiki business, I can set up an automation very quickly and very easily with my email. But it is not always the case when we are first setting up an automation. It can take time. Well, it does take time. It takes effort. It takes trial and error. It takes some hair pulling. It takes some grinding and gnashing of teeth. But when we put the work in up front, then it's all done for us. And so now so many people receive my Reiki Biz Kit all of the time, and people are getting the Reiki Biz Kit while I'm sleeping. And so I'm not doing that task now. I put in the work up front. And what's nice about that kind of upfront work for automation in our Reiki business is that once we have it set up, it can do its task exponentially. So there is a finite amount of times that I can hit send for an email for the day. So let's say I can only send 200 emails per day because that's just the amount of time that I have to copy in and paste in someone's email address and the email and click send. But the automated system, the email sender, can do it an infinite number of times, again and again and again. And so with automation, we have this power of infinity, really, that allows our work to be done on a much greater scale, a much wider scale, and allows us to put the work in maybe more than once, because we might have to refine the automation system. But we put that work in up front. We front load all of the work, and then it just keeps working for us. So this is a real benefit of automation in our Reiki business. Email is one place where I have a lot of automation set up in my Reiki business. My calendar system is another place where I have a lot of automation set up, including the purchase and delivery of my courses, things like the Distance Reiki Business Builder. If you purchase that right now, you're automatically going to get it. There's nothing that I have to do. You will just simply receive all of the program materials in an automated email. So that is something so very nice about automation and a way in which I use it. One thing that many Reiki business owners automate in their Reiki business that I do not is social media posting. I actually don't automate social media posting. We can indeed, and many Reiki business owners do. They might use a program such as Later. It's a social media automated posting software. And you can get a Later account. You can create your posts and then schedule them beforehand to automatically post when you want to. This is something that's really nice to do, a great time saver, but yes, I admit I don't use it in my Reiki business. I've tried it out and I've just determined that it doesn't resonate with me right now. It's not for me right now. Maybe at some point on my Reiki business journey, but I don't use it, and right now I prefer not to. We can do this though on our social media profiles without using something like Later. So for instance, on our Facebook Reiki business page, we can schedule posts there to automatically post whenever we want to. We can also do this in our groups. I do at times schedule posts in my groups for my Reiki business, though I don't do this very frequently either. So I am a big fan of automation in our Reiki business. It allows us to, yes, do more work up front. Yes, it can be more of a challenge up front because there's tech to learn, there's process to learn and to set up and then tweak and refine. But once we do it, it does the work for us. And it allows us to work at a greater volume in our Reiki business than we would be able to otherwise. So automation can be a great benefit. Where it has its challenges is, of course, the cost. And so as a general rule of thumb, the more we automate in our Reiki business and the more we use automation, the more expensive it's going to be, the more it's going to cost. Automation can also be challenging because even though we might put in lots of work up front, it doesn't always work 100% of the time. I've definitely found this out in my Reiki business. And yes, indeed, sometimes it does take some of the personalization out of our Reiki business, but it is a trade-off, and I believe it's important for all of us to explore how we might want to use automation in our Reiki business in order to make our lives and indeed our clients' lives a lot easier. Because like I mentioned, many of us use a calendar system in our Reiki business, and it not only makes our lives easier to have that automated, but it surely makes our clients' lives easier to not have to go through the back and forth manual process of what's a good time for you? Well, I have this time free. Does that work for you? Well, let me get back to you, and on and on. So automation can really help us to cut down on the on and on. So do you use automation in your Reiki business? How are you using automation in your Reiki business? One more way I'm using automation in my Reiki business is with the Reiki Business Summit. And so when you register for the Reiki Business Summit, you are automatically added to the Reiki Business Summit registration list. You automatically receive a confirmation and you automatically receive a welcome email. And so if you would like to get on that registration list and get an automatic confirmation and welcome email, you are welcome to join us at standingstoneshealing.com/summit for this powerful live online Reiki Business Summit this November. And of course, you are welcome to get the free Reiki Biz Kit at standingstoneshealing.com/Reiki Biz Kit. The link, yes, is down below. And yes, that will be sent to you automatically. And there are more emails that you will receive with more Reiki business resources automatically as well. Well, no matter how much automation you use in your Reiki business, I'm sending lots of blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business. Thanks for tuning in to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, and send to a friend. Learn more about the Build Your Reiki Business program at standingstoneshealing.com/build, sending blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business.